There's something exhilarating about going out into the bracing cold air of a winter's morning. Today I woke up, it was 0. Last I checked, it was 7 degrees. It is quite an experience to be out in the silent snows in the morning. For millennia, people have been using snowshoes simply as part of life, part of survival. We go back thousands of years into northern Asia, and people wore snowshoes as a part of life in general. This moved over to North America with the Inuits. This was used simply to move about, to hunt, to gather, to do whatever the necessities were of life. Today they're used more for recreation than for survival, although there are parts of the world that people still use these simply to get about, to hunt, to do whatever they have to do. Wearing various layers of clothing is essential when you're out in a cold winter type experience, whether it's camping or just going out snowshoeing or whatever it is. You see, because when you start heating up, and you do, and you're doing things like snowshoeing, you go up a hill or you're just walking in general, your body begins to heat up. If you begin to sweat, what happens is that sweat builds up under your clothing, and then if you do remove anything, or even if you don't, it can be actually quite dangerous as the temperatures are dropping outside. So you want to be able to take off the outer layers and put them back on when necessary. Now, snowshoes are comprised of a deck and a frame that formerly was made from wood and things like rawhide, but today is made of maybe aluminum, plastic, neoprene. Various materials are used today in modern snowshoes. On modern snowshoes, you have the binding that is actually, it rotates, which makes it so that the cleat, the section on the bottom, can actually reach into the snow, and it makes it easier so that the whole thing doesn't have to move as you're going. It doesn't have to actually go on an angle, because simply your foot can go on an angle and it can pull it forward, which makes it much easier. You also have this support on some of the modern varieties. You have the support here, this piece of metal that can put up, and what that does is that makes it so your foot doesn't go all the way down. This is only used when you're going typically up hills. As you're going uphill, what this does is it makes it so that your foot is still on somewhat of a stable basis, or kind of like being on flat ground, even as you're going uphill. This lowers the amount of strain that you end up feeling on your calves or some of the leg muscles. On the bottom you have cleats, or what are called crampons, and some of the more intense ones have kind of hardcore cleats, more like this. Some of the simpler ones don't have as intense ones. Just depends what you're on. If you're not going to be out on ice, or you're not climbing, up a very steep face of a mountain, you don't need as intense of the spikes, the cleats on the bottom. It just depends what you're looking for. And smaller ones like this are for, snow that may not be as deep. The larger they get, obviously, the better they do at supporting you. They float better on the top of the snow, or what they call flotation. And so it all kind of depends what you're looking for. It's really up to you what kind of boot you want to wear. You may use something as simple as a hiking boot. If you're a person who is more warm-blooded than your average person, you might be able to stay warm just by the exercise, by keeping the blood flowing, by moving along. But for others, using a large winter boot may be better to keep your feet warm enough as you're snowshoeing. One of the great things about poles is they typically you are able to actually, make them shorter or taller. This makes them usable to various people of various different heights. And at the base of the pole, you have something called it's referred to as a basket. And obviously a larger basket is going to make it so that it doesn't sink as far in. A smaller one like this is going to sink a bit. And when you're out there snowshoeing, you're going to get in situations where likely you will fall. It is a regular occurrence, especially early on, because backing up can be a very difficult thing. You try backing up and the back of the snowshoe bends down and you tip back, or you're just somehow you end up falling. It just simply happens. I fell, yesterday. I fell just a couple days ago and probably got close to it today. My wife fell yesterday snowshoeing. And one of the ways that you can get up, if the snow is deep enough, pushing down in the snow with your hands doesn't really work because it just goes down. So what you can actually do is make a cross, kind of an X with your poles, and you can put your hands on them, and as you push down, you are not as liable to sink down, and that gives you kind of the leverage that you need to end up getting up. Now, obviously, there's not much to it. It's not some, deep science snowshoeing, but it's a great way to get out in the weather. You see, when you live, I live directly next, my backyard is the National Forest, and across the street is National Forest. But living out in the cold, homesteading, living in the country, when you have the winter weather, getting out in it is beneficial for your physical health, but also for your mental health. You just feel better after getting out in the cold weather, even on a day like today that probably will at most maybe hit 10 degrees or so. If you like this video, you want to learn more about homesteading, country living, natural remedies tested by science, hit the subscribe button. God bless and have a fantastic day.